Hello, and welcome to episode 16 of the Rick Chappell podcast, yo. This week we hit record because there's a glass with a little bit of milk on it near the camera, and Kevin currently has her paw stuck in it. In fact, oh, she's not going to do it. I was going to say, we can show you. I made a thing. That's right, folks. We got a portable camera this week. We moved all kinds of stuff around. Anyways, there's our Kevin intro. There's actually no milk in there. Milk is bad for cats, if you didn't know that. But she's still trying. Did she just cry? It literally looked like she cried. Well, I don't know what's more entertaining, folks. A cat drinking milk or episode 16. Just kidding. According to TikTok, it's definitely a cat drinking milk. But you may see an ear or two, or maybe even a full-on Kevin this week. We never know. Kevin, for those just joining us, is my furry co-host. There she is. And Kitten, she's a whole lot of something, man. She's tiny. Come on, Kevin, get out of the water. Just come on camera. Let the people see you. This is Kevin. If you look at pretty much any episode, she's usually here around the beginning and then leaves. So, yeah. Anyways, let's hop right into it, folks. How you been? How you doing? My name's Rick. Your name's Audience. We have a new angle for those just joining us for the first time this week, in hopes of, reading the screen and not looking over here. We're getting streamlined, man. I've also got more floor space. The wins are piling up. Anyways, YouTube Studio. What we do here, right near the beginning of every episode now, is read comments on both last week's episode and anything else. Sometimes I don't have a very big channel. So let's just see what I haven't responded to in the last 7 days while Kevin tries to click those guitar pedals over there. Oh, that reminds me. I didn't even turn on the big echo. Does it work? It does. Wow. I bought more cables today, plugged them in, and let's just say started the podcast before I ever tried them. So yay. I'm glad the echo machine is in full force. It's the whole point of having all these toys, is using them, right? We haven't even mentioned the guitar yet. It's a new guitar every week, except for it's not anymore. I'm sorry, I'm not reading comments because I'm mixing our background ambience in a little better. It needs to be more ambient. There we go. Calms the brain down, Okay, what's going on in the last 7 days? Okay, this is a comment on my Guitar Stories video. So the Guitar Stories videos are kind of an early version of this podcast, I guess, in a way, where I would, my plan was to do a short video about every guitar I owned. I did 2. But the 2 that are up there are really good. The one is my most popular YouTube video by far. It's got like 10,000 or something views around now. And it's a video on my old Epiphone Les Paul that's hanging in the corner there. Currently non-functioning. I need to redo some wiring in that thing, or have somebody at work do it for me. But yeah, great guitar. And I just talk about it in short form and kind of tell the stories about it. And we've now expanded that into an hour-long podcast a week. But anyways, the comment on said video, what gauge do you use? Talking string gauges, not I use 11 to 50 and it feels a bit heavy. I think I should go lighter because it doesn't feel so buttery, and as you say with these big strings. Yeah, because that guitar, it feels really smooth. I use D'Addario 10 to 52s on basically everything, with a few minor exceptions. So I use them on everything my whole life because I found out that I like them, and then I don't like buying multiple different kinds of strings. So I was like, there you go. But then I started working at a guitar store, and it's a little different when you can buy strings at work every day and they have all the different kinds and flavors, So I've experimented a little bit. Like, my white Strat back there has Nashville strings on it, so they're all tuned super weird, and it's a really fun layer of guitar to put on things. And there's basses. The Eddie Van Halen guitar back there has 9 to 46s on it, because 9s felt more Van Halen-y and 42 felt too small, so there's my reasoning. And then everything on that back wall has 10-52s, except for the red 7-string, which has 10-52s with a low 60 on it. And then ironically, this guitar I'm playing right now, it's just an extra set of strings I had laying around that are, I don't even know. I think it's like a 11 to 60 set maybe. All I know is I had to do the thing. Oh, you're not going to be, let's bust out the iPhone cam. Portable cam is best cam. I had to do the thing where you unwind the string to make it fit the tuning peg. For those that don't know, you can just take pliers and rip guitar strings apart. Because, yeah, everything's fragile. Like that input jack. What's up next? Oh, now I want to comment on episode 15 of the podcast last week. Hey, Rick, that was interesting. It was. We had an awkward intro. In the future, you could have specific sections in your podcast, like what you just did, talking about an album or the influence of an artist on your life. You could have many topics for each week, and of course, we know Kevin's section will never be missing. Ha 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 ha. Kevin always goes missing, but she does make an appearance. I promise that every time. Usually it's by just sitting here and waiting to start the podcast until she does something cute. This time we baited her with a cup. Yes, I have a massive water jug. Keeps me alive. Keeps me alive. And yeah, I should have more segments to this podcast, not gonna lie. It's been pretty freeform, episode 16, but we're still very much learning as we go. Like I said, new angles, new lights. We always end up talking about that incessantly. But yeah, I think it is coming along. My favorite part so far is the comments, even though we get 3. It's a good time, man. Turns YouTube into a conversation. And not all podcasts are like that, but not all podcasts have a guy who won't stop playing guitar the whole time. Okay, now a comment on my old version of Build Me Up Buttercup from, it's in a bunch of movies. What's the movie everybody knows it from? Is it Something About Mary, I think? I don't know. I haven't seen the movie that everybody talks about with that song. I just heard it on the radio one day and I was like, this is a banger. Let's make it a metal song. Hey, bug. That'll get Kevin going. I have a window open. There's bound to be bug. But yeah, I made a hard rockin' cover of that a long time ago. In this very room, but one of the first things I probably ever released that I made in here, I think. Weird little project I made in a couple days. Okay, now back to the podcast comments. I saw some new AFX stuff. Have you tried the Lion yet? Thoughts on dirty little secret amp or the Plexis in a box? I haven't tried the Lion yet. I'm very excited to. My work's scheduled to get it in like January. So in January, I will try the Lion and make an Eddie Van Halen video and all that fun stuff. But yeah, the UAFX stuff is great so far. I've done reviews on the 3 amp pedals I've gotten my hands on so far. Amazing. The best one, in my opinion, was the Vox one. I thought it was killer. And it's looking like the guy from U2 might think the same thing and has been spotted using them. There's my TMZ style reporting. Literally the rumor started from like a zoom in photo of a U2 show where they were like, those look like those. It wouldn't surprise me. They're great. And yeah, that was a fun cover to do. Oh, sorry. I reran back to Buttercup there for a second. And no, sorry. The versus the Dirty Little Secret pedal. I've never heard of that one. I'm not that up on pedals. I'm better now that I'm working in a music store. I'm getting the news and whatever we have in the store. I try and I like usually. But yeah, I actually have built up more of my board too. So we'll talk about that later too. Now we got a thread. Oh, because I've responded to this guy already because I got super excited about something. And it's a topic we're going to dig into later. And that is Dolby Atmos. But his first comment was just that I captured quite an impressive layer of comping Heavy Debbie vocals on my cover of In My Dreams With You, which is that Steve Vai, Devin Townsend ballad from like the year I was born or a little earlier. Great tune. Kind of cringy music video. And that goes for my cover as well. But yeah, him and I started talking about Dolby Atmos, and I've noted that to talk about later, but we're not going to bore you just yet. Oh, now for the comment of the day. Nicole always hits me with something. Remember that time that chick thought doing heroin in the bathroom was a totally acceptable first date idea? I remember that. How could I not? It wasn't Nicole, for those immediately curious. But it was her friend, for God's sakes. I don't remember her name, honestly, and that's probably a good thing. But I'm going to tell that story now again. So, I met this girl at Nicole's, I think it was your baby shower or that was the gender reveal. That's it. Your gender reveal party for Leo, who is now kindergarten. These are people's names, but yeah, you can't find them, right? Internet, be cool. I might have to edit that. The first time I had to edit. Anyways, it's crazy that kids get old quick, is what I'm getting at. But back to the story. I met a girl at that thing, and I was like, "You're great." And then we hung out at her place, and yeah, she had some friends over. It was a fine time. It was a storm, kind of like we're having right now, actually, but far worse. And there was like a power outage, but we're like, oh, it's still I don't know, there's a couple of us. Let's still get together. And then they were, it turns out they were doing heroin in the bathroom. Took me a couple of minutes to put that together, but then I was like, this is fucked up. And yeah, I will never forget that, Nicole. Thank you for bringing it up yet again. And with that wraps up comments for the week. That was the time, folks. We made it through. And we didn't even have the amount of reverb we had on it last time, completely by accident. That was a mistake. I hope not to repeat. Hey, see, Kevin came back a little bit. She's not looking at us because she's angry. Her spot is now taken up by a camera. But, yeah, come on. Just be happy. You're still my kitten. Say hi to the people. If she jumps up on the shoulders, I'll get her to purr into the mic. We've been practicing that. That sounded so lame. I was going to recap last week's episode a little bit more here. We started with chaos last week because Kevin was doing things like this. Come on, not the whole lens. I'll let you, frame it. But not, you can't be an eclipse, bro. Cats. Last week I just complained about 1989. Not the year, I'm over that. But the album, more specifically the re-release. Because I love the album so much. But the re-release irked me because it's not the album. It's a new version. I don't like change. I do appreciate the bonus tracks. There's one that I've really grown to like so far. It's Now That We're Over. That one's dope. And the other ones are good too. But anyways, we talked about that all last week. We don't have to talk about any more Taylor Swift this week. If you want to know my thoughts, go back. It's a full hour, basically. We've done comments. As per usual, guess how many things I wrote down? Not 10. This time I made it to 6. The next thing to talk about is, of course, the new lights. Everybody's favorite. But you know what? I can at least show you this time. Let's bust out the iPhone camera again. I'm going to put down the guitar. And we'll do a very brief room tour that we haven't done before. I'm going to do my best to try to keep the mic still in front of my face. So there you are. There's where Kevin currently is trying to be. We have the stream. So over here we have another cat. That's Nookie. She's just kind of chilling. Storage, the guitar I was just playing. Album charts for progressy things. Lights, cameras, action. This main light's been here forever. But anyways, we moved around a bunch of stuff. Let's take you on tour of the background right now. Why not? We can do it. We've got the massive Sailor Jerry girl I got from my grandpa. The rack of goodness that is really getting excessive with the new SSL 500 bus compressor. That thing's awesome. The pedal board we will talk about later because later will happen eventually, right? Guitars, stuff and things. Everything else you can see on camera. Okay. That eats up that chunk. But yeah, I think the new angle's good. I will inevitably change it slightly by next week. Oh, Kevin's literally just hitting things off the desk now. Come on. No, I don't. Evil paw is not welcome. Just an evil paw coming up from behind my computer screen. Okay, Kev, you're going to break the USB ports. I know it. That's where you are. And stop it. Sorry, folks. Sometimes you have to just fight your kitten. You're... Oh, she's fault. What'd you... This is enthralling, I know, but it's stress-inducing for me. Okay, Kevin, you're tied up in a wire? Absolutely not. Come on out. There you go. Just ruin the shot. That's better than causing actual chaos. Okay, come on. Play along at least. Do you want to just hang out? Do the thing? Cuddly Kev? This is the goal. I would like her to do this all the time. She's gotten pretty good at it. Every once in a while, she will just launch herself onto my back when I'm fully not expecting it. And it's adorably terrifying. Like, if I'm going to have a heart attack from something, it's going to be that. And I'm cool with it. That is my way to go. Shocked to death by Kitten. Right on the tombstone, that was chill. As he burps into the microphone. I was going to talk about new furniture, but there's not really new furniture in here. It's the same old stuff, man. My 412 is hiding in the corner again. Now we're going to talk about Dolby Atmos. I hinted at it. I really want to make music in Dolby Atmos. If it is as good as it seems to be and is a deliverable universal surround sound format, that's what Dolby Atmos is, by the way, folks. It is 5.1, surround sound in a way that if you have an iPhone or Spotify or Apple Music, you've probably already been listening to. It just works with like sound bars and phone speakers, and it's just a smart new digital form of music, essentially. But to get into making it is like thousands, like $8,000 to $12,000 worth of speakers and computer interfaces and whatnot. I thought for a brief moment I had the computer interfaces all ready to do it. And I was like, oh, cool. If it's just speakers, that cuts it down a lot. But it turns out it's not. I have the right amount of ins and outs onto my computer and my interface setup. But I run two interfaces kind of joined together, and you can't do that. You need one that is a master brain. So I'm really considering it. But I have a whole record to finish before we get into Dolby Atmos. There's no way the one I've been doing so far this year will achieve. Like, I can't do it. We committed to this version of it, right? But it'll be great in 2.1, like every piece of music has been for the last, century. But man, when I get surround sound, it's gonna be great. I think when this album is done, my plan is to list the stuff I have for sale, and then when it sells, hop down on a right now I have an Apollo X8 and a Scarlett Octo Pre-Dynamic, for those that know what that is. It's essentially a UAD audio interface and an expander that allows me to, take advantage of it a little bit better. I would get rid of both and replace them with an Apollo X16, which essentially gives me the same amount of things in a smaller box and the ability to output like 16 channels of audio, which sounds excessive, but to do Dolby Atmos, you need a minimum of 12. And to do 12, you also want to have a pair of regular speakers just for, listening to regular music. So 12 becomes 14. And then I happen to enjoy outboard gear. So 14 becomes 16. Like that. And in fact, I have an Apollo Twin that would also have to stay in the system just to give me some more digital ins for the television and the Axe effects and the rest of the things that I use to make music and even this podcast at times. So kind of married to the UAD system and whatnot. And if they support Atmos, hey, let's make it happen. That's the computer side of Atmos. We're talking about all of this. The speaker side of Atmos is even more interesting in a way for those that are still listening. It's infinite. Technically, you could add as many speakers as you wanted because you're creating an illusion, at the end of the day. But it also includes speakers above your head. And the point one of the system is usually a subwoofer or low frequency generators. So the 7.1 here, I wrote it down because I had to map out to make sure this would work in my brain. Here's just how you eat up 12 outputs by just having one Dolby Atmos rig. Left, right, center speakers just in front of you. Side of you to the left, side of you to the right. Behind you to the left, behind you to the right. A subwoofer. and then 4 over your head pointed at you like from a square kind of thing. And because of that, that's 12 outputs right away. So there is a system by IK Multimedia right now. It's like the immersive bundle, and it seems to be the only system available, and it's expensive. But when you break down the fact that it is 11 speakers, it's actually bang for buck pretty amazing, I think, if you look hard enough at it. But that's a year or 2 away, I bet, from ever entering this room. Before I would even think about doing that, I need to do acoustic treatment. It makes everything better. And I have done all the things you're not supposed to do when it comes to like adding fancy monitors over the years, or subwoofers, or I guess outboard gear still works really well. But they all say to get acoustic treatment early on. We're on year, I guess 3 or 4 of like really having this place set up as a studio, maybe 5. I don't know. I moved in here in 2016, but I didn't start really working in here until like 2 years before the pandemic of that blur. Call it 5 years. So to go surround sound and Atmos would be amazing. And then I probably would need a new computer eventually, because I have a feeling I kill this thing enough with stereo that surround would be just an utter nightmare. Oh, we can talk a little bit about Outlier, and I can even share a little piece finally. So I don't know how loud this is going to be. I'm trying to keep it down. Don't get excited. It's not a song. One of the songs has this like ambient intro I've designed. It's near the end of the album. And basically there's a song near the end that is like finale vibes, right? Like obviously you're building to something with an album and things. So this is the big build. It comes in after the fade out of the last song, or kind of during. You overlap the things so it sounds like a... And there's like all kinds of talking bits, and I need to add a few more because there's a clip there that I really like, and then some bits of it that I don't. So we'll just edit them out and put in more voices and stuff. That one's Bill Burr. He's actually on another one of the songs from a podcast. I took a clip out. And yeah, there's kind of ambience that I've put onto this record. And the song begins around there after the birds start chirping. But you don't get that yet, man. You'll get that eventually. I also added a big outro to it that I will try to tease without teasing the rest of the song. Stop doing it. It's a big song with a lot of parts. No vocals on this part, or on this version of it yet. There you go. It's the outro. I put a bunch of wishy-washy guitar parts on it. Very reminiscent of what we do in the podcast. Oh, of course it cuts out. I was going to say very reminiscent of what we do on the podcast. This ambient echo marathon. But yeah. I haven't recorded a whole lot of new layers, but we found ways to throw old stuff together in ways that are cool. Anyways, back to real guitar. Real live guitar. Let's talk about this guitar. I've done a podcast on it already. Like I said, we're through the collection enough that it's no longer a new guitar every week, folks. That was a not sustainable business model. But it was a fun lot of episodes there. He says as he gets stuck. This one is one I don't use all that often anymore. That's why it has like some weird strings on it. It's kind of as many guitars as I have, I don't like to think I have any extra ones. I try to be very picky with the ones I have. I have a good reason for keeping the ones I do. Or they're very unique to each other. This is what I tell myself. But this one, anyways, is an Ibanez RG470, made in Korea. Korean guitars are great. They pretty much always have been from the ones I've tried. Like I think my Les Paul back there is made in Korea. This thing's made in Korea. And the Solar is made in Korea, if I'm not mistaken. And my Dave Mustaine V is made in Korea. So, go Korea. That one. Not that. Thumbs down to the one I'm talking about, and thumbs up to the other one I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about? You know Korea. The Koreas. Where'd the volume go? No, they didn't do a great job on the output jack. Just kidding, that was me. I've modified this. I've talked about that before. I guess I don't have to get into it all again. But over the years, man, the tuners are swapped, the pickups are swapped, the bridge is swapped. The only thing that's left is the wood. And the pickup I won in a contest, which I've told this story before because it's come up in multiple podcasts because it comes up with multiple of the guitars I own. But I won a Zakk Wylde contest when I was like 14 or 15. Years later, I met the guy who judged that contest. Or not judged it. The judge was Zakk Wylde. I haven't met him still to this day. But the guy at EMG, the company that put on the contest kind of thing, I met that dude randomly backstage at a Devin Townsend concert. And he was super nice. So shout out to Chris Johnson, man. You're awesome. And, he put out music. I think we talked about that on the podcast, too. We've shouted him out once or twice now. Go team. I like to promote friends on my 30 to 70, I think, listener a week podcast. I get it. Some weeks you guys got stuff going on. Episode 16 with no promotion. People will find it eventually, right? Share it with your friends. This is that part where I beg. How do you find a podcast, man? It's word of mouth. It's algorithmic if you have a very specific topic, like if we talked about cars or cats. But the cat doesn't join on a consistent enough basis to warrant that being a permanent feature. And I've talked about cars enough in my life that I don't need to do it anymore. But hey, if you want to comment car questions, man, I got a lot of stories about those things. One of them tried to kill me. Got a big old dent in my head, missing a bunch of teeth. I know we've told that story before on here. Maybe not the whole thing, but I know I've referenced it, or at least you know the stories about the cars. If you don't, comment and we'll tell them next week. But, okay, now I was going to talk about things at work. It's not so much work as it is the neighborhood. Is terrible. It involves, like, just drug abusers and sellers and the whole 9 yards. This morning I went to McDonald's, and when I was going in, there was a lady just screaming on the corner. Not like in pain, not like in terror, just being like, Michael! Michael! Or like, don't you fucking walk away from me! As strangers would like walk by. It was just crazy lady on the street vibes, you know? You know. And yeah. And then I went to McDonald's, got my breakfast. My McBreakfast, I should say. I don't know which note's gonna be a root. None of those ones. Back to C. Oh no, this guitar's in B. Right? Yeah. Open B. Like I said, extra guitar, weird tunings. But dude, the other day there was people like not camping out, but hanging out by the dumpster. And I was like, can we not do this, please? And they were like, come on, there's a quad here. We can hang out. And I was like, what the fuck logic is this? And then I went for lunch, and as I was walking back from McDonald's again, funny enough, they were smoking meth out of like the glass pipe just right there. So I was like, hey dudes, thanks for moving to the front of the store. That was better, I guess. And when I say dudes, it's actually a female that's the worst offender. But yeah, it's just not a great neighborhood, man. Now, we're going to talk about the Beatles song. Now, and then. The Beatles came out with a new song. I talk about news, I guess, sometimes on this podcast, but I never thought I'd talk about a Beatles song coming out in 2023, but it's cool. It's an old tape of John Lennon that Paul McCartney used to basically make a new song of. And then there's all kinds of extra stuff that's Beatlesy, obviously. Like Ringo Starr plays drums on it. George Harrison has some guitar parts on it that were used, from years ago, and he recorded some stuff on the demo as well. They had tried to do this song in the past, but it didn't sound good enough, apparently. So now they've used AI to essentially improve John Lennon's clarity of voice. It doesn't make his voice, it just like clears it out, some of the tape hiss from back in the day sort of thing. But some of the other Beatles trivia for you, I read this online, and then today I finally heard it for myself. I believe it's in the orchestral section, somewhat near the middle or the end of the song. There's some background vocals that go, ah. And it's the Beatles. Because it's the song because. It just is. Like, they use isolated vocals from the rest of the Beatles catalog. And essentially, if the Beatles did a beautiful thing like they do, that happened to be, the same chord of the new song, plop, copy paste. What's up, Kevy? And that's pretty cool. A little Easter egg that definitely makes it more of a Beatles song, I guess, right? Like, there's more of the four of them on it. The only criticism I could possibly levy against the song is just the fact that it is, a tape from the 70s and Paul McCartney from 2023. So it sounds like an old guy singing along with John Lennon. Like, Paul McCartney still sounds great, don't get me wrong. And for his age, he sounds amazing. Like, not a dick. But they don't sound as together just because of that age gap, I think, mainly. Not the recording techniques or the mixing or anything like that. But yeah, still great. John sounds amazing on it, and that's the main point, right? So good for them. That said, in the video, there's a lot of John Lennon just like goofing around. And some of it's really heartwarming and touching, but there's like maybe a frame or two where you're like, okay, like, could you not have shown him just sitting down on a beach or something? I don't know. Like, there could have been other shots than like doing a little dance all the time. Or maybe they could have also, I don't know. I'm not in charge of this stuff, man. Last week we complained about Taylor Swift. This week we're not complaining about the Beatles. We're just talking about the Beatles because it's Beatle week, I guess, because they have a new song. My connection with the Beatles, let's just go into that, why not? Starts young, of course. Everybody knows about the Beatles, at least, But I first became aware of them probably grade 3 or 4, around the time that I was living in both White Rock and Abbotsford. So for those that don't know, it's like 45 minutes away from each other-ish. And not on a highway, like on different roads. And yeah, I had a parent living in one and a parent living in the other. So the commute to and from school sometimes was just daunting, like weird. So music became a main, stay, right? Obviously, you have time to listen to some music on that drive. And one of the CDs that we had for the drive was the Beatles 1 album, the red one with the yellow number 1 on it, which was just a collection of all the number 1 hits they had because they had like 20 something, like it's insane. And yeah, so you hear all the Beatle hits. And at a young age, you're more into the Red album, or that era of, I Want to Hold Your Hand, Hold Me Tight, or, early songs. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what you want to hear. And then probably maybe just around the pandemic, yeah, it's probably 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. I was going through a bunch of dental work. And I remember listening to a bunch of the Beatles around then, because a little before that I was getting more into them. And yeah, that's when I got more into like the Blue Album stuff, let's call it. So the Strawberry Fields, the Penny Lane, the Sgt. Pepper, the Abbey Road full record. Like that was when I had the grown-up Beatles enjoyment. So it's cool that one band made all that stuff in 10 years, but now 10 years just became 70 or something wild, right? Because then and now. Great tune. On the new record, Outlier, there is one song to me that is Beatlesy. Hopefully it'll be obvious, because to me, it is. It's called Messiah, if it's not. I actually borrowed one of my coworker Chris, who plays violin on a handful of songs in this new album. He has a Beatles guitar collection, so like the Rosewood Telecaster and the Les Paul, Cherry, bunch of Strats, a Beatles collection of guitars, And one of them, of course, is a Hofner bass. So I had to borrow it for one track, and that track was Messiah. I do have to fix the performance digitally slightly, because it's not intonated quite perfect, and I played some really high notes on it. Way up there. And it is the bass for that, but it's not the bass for that at the same time. I don't know. I'm no Paul McCartney, but I put a melodic bass line on a song that is not the kind of stuff I would usually think of. My coworkers think it sounds like not John Lennon, Led Zeppelin. Apparently it's more of a Zeppelin bass line than a Beatle bass line, but I use the Beatles bass, damn it. As per usual, man, we've hit about the halfway mark of the podcast, and I've checked off the list of prepared topics. So, let's riff. How you folks been? What's been going on this week, aside from the Beatles and neighborhood shenanigan? Kev's been vibing. We've been moving stuff around. I've been recording a bunch of like synthesizers and all that fun stuff. What else can we share? I don't want to start making half-hour podcasts, by the way. I know that's a very clear option because this happens about the midway point every time. But you know me by now. No problem just blabbing till my jaw gets sore. Okay, let's talk about Dolby Atmos some more and the sound treatment I want to do. By putting up the acoustic panels in here, like behind the guitars and on a bunch of the blank walls, not only do you eliminate, echo, not that this room is huge and has lots of echo, and just by putting a couch in it and, records and gear, you dampen that a lot, and having the closets full of guitars, cases, and, clothes, it's great for the acoustics of a room. But, it's just a thing to blow my nose in, don't worry about that. The blank walls and the blank ceiling and the blank floors still do affect it a great deal. So I've got a small carpet down that is not thick or plush or all that acoustic, but helps. And that's it. I had some of the cheap foam that you buy online that is not good. It doesn't do anything, honestly. So Kevin's ripped most of it off the walls and I haven't stopped her. It's fine. It can go away. There's a kit I can find for a pretty good deal through work that will do pretty much the size room really well. And even though I have closets and a window and a TV and, not all rooms are the same, I think I can break apart the kit in a way that's really well done. And probably buy like one or two more pieces to it to really set this place up. I want to get a bass trap in the corner because bass traps for corners are amazing. Possibly for 2 corners because that would be great. That would be amazing, but because of the closet, I don't really have the ability or frankly the need as much. Does a lot. But yeah, bass traps. And then a cloud. A big old thing to hang above my head and never fall and kill me. But eliminate reflection. And it would make the microphone sound better. Make the podcast sound better. Make everything sound better. And then while we're at it with this lottery victory I'm talking about, I would get a new computer. That is a Mac that is not a built-in screen. Get a nice screen, hide the Mac over there so you can't hear that. The fan, because they have fans, because they're machines. They get hot. Especially when you're making music and rendering video and, doing more than just browsing Facebook. And I was going to say Twitter, but it's X. How do you feel about that? I'm not sure how conversational you'd like to get in the comments. I enjoy it, but I don't know if we can have a live chat. But if one of the things you want to talk about is X versus Twitter, I'm all for it, man. We'll riff on that for 5 minutes next week. And to this. Now and Then's a great song. Sorry, I'm looking at the list again, of course, just to imagine there's 4 more things on it. There's not. There's not at all. Let's just put it over here. Okay, you know what? We didn't talk about the pedal board. So we're going to mute the guitar. I'm going to go back to the iPhone camera and even move the microphone around a little bit so I can talk about guitar nerd stuff. This is going to get brutal for those not interested. iPhone. There we go. Microphone still pointed at my noggin. Okay. So, can you see the board? You can see the board. Here we have, going into it very first. So under my desk, there's actually a tuner pedal, of course, because you need tuner pedals. Then, radial shotgun. This is splitting my signal in 4 directions. So the first one is to the rest of the pedal board. The second one is to my Axe effects. The third one is to my Roland GP100. And the fourth one is a DI into the computer. So I always have a nice clean DI due to that little DI box back there and a rat's nest of cables. Anyways, on the pedal board side of things, so output 1 goes into an ISP decimator, which has a secret we'll talk about later. A Dynacomp, which is just a great compressor. It's the most recent addition to the board, and I haven't gotten to use it too much just yet, but it sounds great. Maxon OD808, the overdrive to defeat all other overdrives, in my opinion. My humble opinion. And then that is essentially it for my guitar pedal board. It goes into the B7K, but the white cable coming out of the parallel out, therefore in no way affected by the B7K, is what feeds the amplifier back there. Now we can talk about that secret noise gate, because there's a shiny box, a white box, and a black box. The shiny box is another ISP decimator. Literally the exact same pedal. There is an input-output system on the top of that pedal that allows you to connect two of them together in two different places and trigger them off of each other, which is brilliant in my opinion. So I have a trigger right away. The first thing my guitar, reads is a trigger essentially. So it reads how loud I'm playing guitar by the waveform. Then it opens and closes a gate over here, which is actually into the loop of my amplifier, meaning all of the noise and hiss and distortion and everything that comes away later is triggered way earlier by a lower, cleaner noise floor signal, which for those that care, that's awesome. Maybe it blew your mind. For those that don't, math, it wasn't math, but science. Anyways, the black box now is an MXR 10-band EQ, which is an EQ. And the white box is a 2-notes Torpedo Captor X, which is the greatest thing, because I have a tube amplifier and I have never plugged in that part here at home because I would get evicted. Anyways, there's one more big green bastard on the pedal board, and that is this big old Line 6 delay pedal, which I wired in literally before hitting go and am relieved that I did it correct. It is how I get my Axe effects into the computer, kind of. So I digitally get it into the computer by just ADATing it from there to there, but it also has outputs on it. So I use output 1 and 2, which are the exact same signal, run them into this DL4, which I have set to a 100% wet, very, very long ping pong delay, which then goes into the computer separately. And then I can mix it in there and do all that fun stuff. And there's your Kevin spot. She is now. I'm afraid she's going to bump the camera because the new tripod is essentially CDs. But yeah, so far she hasn't. So we're doing all right. Look at that camera movement. There was so little stabilization on that. I probably gave some of you a small bout of nausea. But those of you that didn't experience nausea were hopefully entertained. Or maybe I found a way to smooth it out in the edit. Probably not. Back to the podcast. The regular scheduled shenanigans. I've been weekly now for, I want to say 10 weeks. I don't know. I haven't actually counted. But yeah, even though we're in November now, for God's sakes. We're fully in November. It's the 4th. That counts. But yeah, we've only done 16 episodes this year. Podcast started this year, obviously. And yeah, I took a couple, maybe a month or two off overall. Hopefully next year, now that I've learned to plan ahead slightly and be a little more productive, we will hit 52 episodes. We'll do one a week. At first, it was bi-weekly with a songwriting challenge. I do want to get back to the songwriting challenge, but I'm done challenging myself writing songs right now because I am trying to finish the songs right now. So it's going well. But we'll bring back the Song in a Day live stream. It's really fun. For those that don't remember or weren't here for them, they are still out there. It's a 3 to 5 hour probably video. There's maybe 5 or 6 of me sitting down here and just writing and recording an entire song with drums, bass, guitar, vocals, harmonies. It's a whole demo of a song, lyrics, you name it. Out of honestly nothing. The rules of the game were always quite simple. The night before, or sometimes moments before, I would get a coworker or somebody to pick a letter and a number that would designate me a key and a tempo. So the letter had to be between A and G. If you know sharps or flats, you're allowed to use them, but if you don't, that's fine. You can also add sharps or flats if you want, if that helps you make your song, because I played with other people sometimes. And then the number was your tempo, which you could double or half or give it a triplet feel or whatever, but if you put a click track on it, it had to line up. That was the rule. And yeah, I made a bunch of music that way. I think I did 6 episodes. Two of the songs are fully on the next record. They've been tweaked and further polished since then, but hey, they got written live. I know one called Groundhog Day at the time, and I think Back in Time was written on live stream, and then the opening song Long Day wasn't written on stream, but it was written to the rules of that game just before I had thought to film it, frankly, because it's something I've been doing for on and off 3 years or so. It used to be fun because I'd get a coworker at like a car dealership or something to pick a letter and number for me at 3 p.m., get off work at 5, come home, do the thing, and then the next morning be like, I made this, and hit play and show people music. It was fun. Now that I work in a music store, the shock value of that's worn off quite a bit because we all know how to record music. But it's still amazingly cool that I live in a time where we can all do that. Like, that technology is out there, man. That's awesome. Is the echo too loud in one headphone? We're fighting things. Oh, it is slightly. I have a button pressed on one side, but not the other. Well, these are the minutiae that hopefully you didn't notice, but a little part of me always will. And now I'm pretty sure I'm turning the wrong knobs. Yeah. Wow. Third time was the charm there. I don't love the bigger strings on this guitar, just to be ADHD and jump around the podcast again. It was an experiment. I have a baritone 6-string guitar that's not here. It's being modified and has been for the past year and a half. I left it at a buddy's house who's not a luthier by any means, but he is a great woodworker, and just asked him to route something out for me to add a pickup into it that I wanted to do. And it's taken a while, but I don't blame him, man. He's had kids and had a crazy year, so do your thing, bro. But when I get that guitar back, ooh boy, gonna be a whole record, I'm sure. The ideas for my next record, God, are starting to bubble up also, I think. Not that I'm done this one. I still have to sing all of it and mix all of it and finish some string work, and we're working on this still. But the fear of not having a follow-up set in for an hour, and then I was like, oh dude, I got tons of ideas. There's 2 to 3 different, we'll call them albums, that I can think about doing next. One's brutal heavy metal. One is songs that kind of sound like Outlier still, but maybe are a little bit lighter even than that and more synth driven. And I've thought of a name and artwork and everything for that we will not talk about yet. And then there's also all that baritone guitar has an album worth of songs in it already. I recorded one demo that I've come back to once or twice and been like, oh yeah, there's a lot of ideas in that. And these strings were for that, I think, which is why I initially bought them. But I ended up going with a different gauge on that I really like. It's, again, a 10 to 52 set, but it's actually my 7-string 10 to 52 set where I add a low 60, but I ditch the high E10. So it's whatever that becomes. Because even though, like I said, I work at the music store and I can buy all the strings I want, I do want to keep it simple because I couldn't remember if every single guitar of mine had unique strings. Sounds like a nightmare. I sound, not that those customers are a nightmare, because they're actually, can say thankfully, I don't have any customers that are string brand specific Nazis. Even though we all are in our own way. I love the ones I love. But we don't have any big complainers or picky people with strings, thank God. People know the ones that are out there, and they know the good ones. And my favorites are D'Addario's. And with that, Oh, I thought we cracked an hour, but we actually cracked 50 minutes, basically. Misread that. That said, every podcast has ended somewhere in the early 50s moments, so we're on track to do that. I have a couple other things I could talk about. A couple cover songs in the works that have been in the works for weeks now. One of them is planned to come out when I hit 500 subscribers, which we're not there yet, and we are so slowly chunking towards it if you consider the fact I've had a channel since like 2013. But when you consider we started podcasting this year and actually doing things, hey, let's call it 1 year to hit this 500, maybe 2. We're at 456, and 40 of those have been in the last 28 days. So, if we keep this progress up, we can hit 500 by the end of the year, and that is when I will drop my cover of The Cult of Personality by In Living Color, which is just such a rad song. I programmed the drums for it on a whim forever ago. Borrowed a coworker's bass guitar. It's a Yamaha XB1. Google it. It's insane. And then I've used I used a guitar I no longer have for the solo. I filmed all that. I haven't recorded the rhythm guitars yet because I want to use, which way I have to turn, the Black Explorer back there. But I have a new bridge on order for it to turn it all black because it's a Black Explorer. And yeah, I pulled the strings off it because I thought it would be here already. And it's not. But yeah, it's cool, that guitar and that song. And I hope to hit 500 soon, and I hope that bridge is here in time that I can post that video, because that'll be fun. I've also got a Beatles cover that I've been plonking away at very slowly, and by that I mean I haven't opened in like 2 months. I've talked about it here already before. And then I thought about doing, what was the other one? We don't have to talk about it because clearly it's such a distant memory it may not happen. And with that, let's call it episode 16 of the podcast, folks. This one was the time. Thank you for being here. If you were here, if you still are here, leave a comment. We'll open with it next week. You can participate like a cool kid. Click on the other videos that are on screen if there are such a thing around now. Maybe they're my cover songs. Maybe they're other episodes of this podcast. If you haven't seen them, watch them. They get like 30 views. Let's get to 500 on everything eventually, right guys? The internet. It's fun. See ya.